Okay, so let's get started. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here and to offer this new career conversation. My name's Eileen Merberg. I'm Executive Director of Alpha Lambda Delta, and helping out tonight is Lauren Huffman, who's the Chapter Advisor at Kent State University. And I'm going to turn it over to Lauren, who is going to introduce our guest speaker tonight. So thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Eileen. Hi, everyone. I am here to introduce Amy Bogart. Amy serves as an executive recruiter for Direct Recruiters, Inc. in Solon, Ohio. Amy joined Direct Recruiters to provide executive search, staffing, contingency, and retained search to healthcare IT organizations. Amy focuses on building strong relationships and rapport. Her interpersonal skills come into play at Direct Recruiters with both clients and coworkers. Amy worked in sales and marketing for 10 years prior to joining Direct Recruiters. Her years in marketing taught her to be flexible, communicative, adaptable, hardworking, and of course, to have fun along the way. Amy graduated from Ohio University Scripps College of Communication with a focus in media studies. She was involved with a video production student organization during her time there. Her hobbies outside of work include taking care of her ever-expanding house plant collection, hiking, yoga, reading, spending time with family and friends, and discovering new music to listen to. Amy enjoys getting involved with Relay for Life, as well as Race for the Place, which is the Gathering Place's annual fundraiser. She is happy to pitch in and her efforts wherever she can for these great events and great causes. Thank you so much for being here, Amy. If you would all get a round of hand clapping emojis to welcome Amy, that would be awesome.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Great. Well,
Thanks for having me.
thank you so much. So I am going to start out with some questions. And so for everybody here, Lauren will be monitoring chat. So please feel free to ask any questions you want. Just go ahead and put them as they come to you in chat. You are welcome to unmute, turn your cameras on if you want at the end and ask questions. But certainly as anything comes up throughout the presentation, just feel free to type something in chat and Lauren will monitor, and then at the end we'll do Q&A. So great. So Lauren touched a little bit on this, Amy, but talk a little bit more again about your educational and career background, and just sort of as context, I think folks here are interested in the wisdom of a recruiter, but also maybe somebody wants to also be in the business, who knows, as their own career to be a recruiter, but certainly talk a little bit about your own educational background and career background.
Absolutely. So yeah, as Lauren said, I went to Ohio University, beautiful Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and loved my time down there. You can see I'm still wearing my OU green, it looks like, tonight, but I had a great time in college in my media studies track in the College of Communication. Like Lauren said, I volunteered for some student-run video productions, some TV series that we worked on, and took a variety of classes, all really pretty much relating to communications for the most part. And those skills that I picked up from classes you wouldn't always think would help you down the road really did. Things about organizational communication, learning how to understand how other people think and communicate. And all those classes were so interesting and really helped as I kind of moved through my career, some of those skills I picked up. Found myself working in video production after college. This was during the recession. So like many of my counterparts who graduated around that time, we lost our first jobs due to cutbacks. So what did I do after lose my job in video production? Cleveland, Ohio wasn't really a video production hotbed. So I kind of moved around and got a taste of a few other jobs, worked in sales support, worked retail, found a career in marketing. And I started working in marketing agencies a little over 10 years ago and stayed there for about 8 years or so, and got to work on a variety of clients, variety of projects, and took my media studies skills, things I had picked up, combined with life experience, and found myself really excelling in marketing. So it was a fun journey.
Great. Okay. So what are your responsibilities as a recruiter? What is a recruiter? How would you describe what you do and what your scope of responsibility is?
Yeah. So when I moved over from the world of marketing to recruiting, I found myself in this new world of kind of questioning the same thing. What does the process look like? What does it mean to be a recruiter? And to be clear with you all right now, I actually recruit for several companies. So the model of where I'm at right now is a firm, kind of like how I worked in marketing agencies with several clients. I work with several clients now. They're all focused in one industry, but we cover many industries at our firm. And my responsibilities include the full life cycle of recruitment projects. So that means I meet with hiring managers or my clients to determine the best candidate profile for what they're looking to fill. I source talent. I use LinkedIn primarily to source talent. We have a research team here who does the same, and they use a variety of tools as well. There are other tools out there for recruiting to help find good talent. LinkedIn is the basis of what I use though. And then I run each candidate through the recruitment process fully. So it's not just, pick up the phone, talk to someone, pitch them a job, get them a job. There's a lot of little steps in between, right? So there's preparing for interviews. I give as much information as I've been armed with to the candidates so they can have a successful interview. That's really what ultimately we want to happen is they ace it, they land the job. And all the way up through debriefing from their interviews, finding out what's motivating them, finding out where there's maybe even red flags with the interview process, just having a transparent conversation with candidates to understand their motivators and what's interesting to them is really part of the job. It's more than just getting the person in the seat. So all the way up through contract negotiations, offer negotiations, we help out, we get you placed, and then we'll follow up with you later, make sure you're still happy, maybe 6 months later, and that's really the full life cycle.
Wow, yeah, it reminds me of a lot of jobs I got over the years. Just the process, all that negotiating. Okay, so what would can anybody work with a recruiter? How does that work? Do college graduates, is everyone here on this call tonight is graduating in the next couple of years or next May or maybe 3 years from now, and they wanted to work with a recruiter, how does a job seeker work with a recruiter, and are there costs? Is there like a fee to use a recruiter?
Yeah, well, I'll handle that first. There's no fee to work with a recruiter. It's a common misconception. If a recruiter asks you to pay them, run far away is what I would say.
That's good to know. I did not know that.
Just to, there may be exceptions to that rule that I'm not aware of in the whole wide world of recruiting. I've never met a reputable company that's going to go down the road if the candidate needs to pay for something as part of the interviewing process. That cost comes to my clients, to the hiring manager, the company that's going to hire you. So it'll never come out of your pocket. And the way you can work with a recruiter, for students like yourselves or recent grads, I say start presenting yourself to recruiters. I say go out and be proactive and say, hey, Amy, I'm interested in XYZ job. Do you have any connections there? Or, hey, I'm interested in your industry. Can we network? Set up some networking calls just to get your foot in the door so recruiters will know you. That's one way to start it. So,
yeah. Okay, good. Thanks. Okay, so first I'm going to go off script a little bit and just ask a question. So I heard a rumor, and everyone here can maybe chime in and give me an indication whether this rumor is right or wrong. But I've heard a rumor that today's college students are not as much on LinkedIn as previous generations of college students. Not that LinkedIn is that old. But in terms of social media, it's one of the early adopters. So I'm just curious if everyone here has a LinkedIn profile, but that's what and maybe Amy, what do you see in the industry among recent college graduates? Is LinkedIn becoming out of favor, and how important is LinkedIn? So let me ask the question and then let you answer all of it. What does make a resume and a cover letter and or a LinkedIn profile page stand out to you as a recruiter? What are elements of that resume and LinkedIn profile that jump out?
Yeah. Well, to go back on what you were saying about, who's on LinkedIn today. Yeah, I think I see less entry level or recent grads on LinkedIn. I think it's a missed opportunity personally. I'm a big proponent of, a big fan of LinkedIn. I don't think it hurts to have it out there. Sure, you can go through your job search with TikTok or Instagram or something else. You might find really great leads that way. But I think to have that executive presence and have a professional presence, one place for that is going to be LinkedIn. As far as standing out in a crowd with a great resume, a great cover letter, great LinkedIn, when you think about how you're selling yourself, this is the first impression they're getting of you. So a great resume can stand out by having great content on it. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Maybe you're a graphic designer. Maybe you should put some effort into it if you're going for a graphic design job. But the resume doesn't need to be, pristine, beautiful. It's got to have the right content on it. And by that, I mean, look at the job description of something you're applying to, customize your resume so it's fitting what the job description is listing out. Spend a lot of time on your resume. You're looking for a job. This is think of it as a job. Your job searching is your job, and so put that effort into it as you would any work product. I would not rely on necessarily. This might not be favorable, but I would not rely on ChatGPT to do the work for you. Maybe I'm old school, but I would say, maybe find a really great resume writer to get a good foundation in place, a template, so to speak, that you can customize per job, and then optimize your LinkedIn page too. So by that, I mean, start posting relevant content on LinkedIn. Make sure you have a headline and a cover photo and a profile photo. So many people don't use that. But people can start to get a sense of your personality too through your LinkedIn. So those are just a few things I would do. And other ways of optimizing your LinkedIn would include getting recommendations. Maybe that's from people you've worked with in professional settings, peers, or someone you worked on a great project with. Maybe it was an instructor. Those are really good things to start showing that you're taking your job hunt seriously and you want to reflect that on your LinkedIn. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention, LinkedIn Learning, big fan of LinkedIn, obviously, LinkedIn Learning courses. When you finish a course, typically on LinkedIn, it'll put a badge on your profile that you've done XYZ course. That can be a good thing to show. Let's say you are in a little bit of a lull in your job search, you're not getting a lot of interviews, you're staying active, you're staying sharp, you're showing future employers you were staying busy. I think that's important.
Great. Yeah. And just a quick piggyback on your comment about the resumes and stuff is everybody here, I'm pretty sure whatever campus you're here representing, your campus has a career center. And those are folks that that's their life, is helping you write your resume. That's what they do. So start your resume writing and cover letters, but I bet there's a resource right there on your campus and an expert really to help you format it or just as Amy said, get the right content in. So use your career centers on your campus.
Yeah, and outside of that, I know that a lot of career centers are open to the alumni, for a certain amount of years, or even sometimes I think OU is like lifetime. So those resources can come in handy down the road too.
Right. And I think that does sort of answer the next question. So you've given great advice about resume writing and cover letters and LinkedIn. So how do you accomplish that? Like how do they achieve that good writing, good content? So other resources so anything more on that? So we've said career centers. What are some other?
Sure. Local libraries have great resources as well. It doesn't have to. It's oftentimes, just your small little local library. It's not even big public systems. They have a lot of help, a lot of volunteers there. People who are resume writers, they'll help you with that. I say also I learn by example personally. I like to look at examples of templates, and you start to see what's good and what's bad out there and what you do and don't want to do just by looking at the examples. So I think that's a helpful thing to look at. But really at the end of the day, you want to have your voice presented in the resume, and only you can do that at the end of the day. So if you are working with a resume writer, don't be afraid to give them an edit or two if it doesn't sound like you. You still want to make this, your marketable piece about you.
Right, yeah. So the student who just did something in chat, do you want to pose your question in chat? Or do you just want to go ahead and ask? Yeah, go ahead and ask. Go ahead,
So I was gonna ask, with the recruitment process, I know that's definitely a process and that it will take time. Is there any estimation of time to where for a candidate who's either a sophomore, or a senior, or a junior, like on average, how long should it take, or is there really no quantifiable amount of time you can put on that? It's just based on experience.
Good question.
Great question. Yeah, I'd say as far as the recruitment process goes for somebody who's already a professional, graduated, and they're in their working world already, and I reach out to them, that little recruitment process of I reach out to you get the job, that can range from, I don't know, it could be shortest I've done is like a 2-week turnaround. Somebody got a new job, finished their interviews within 2-3 weeks. Longer will be like 3 months. And it's going to depend on the level of the role, the hierarchy of the role. Are there direct reports? Do you have people you're managing in that role? So it's going to depend a little bit. But as far as when you can start reaching out to a recruiter and when I'm going to start keeping you in mind for roles, it's probably going to be about the time you graduate. I think it's always great to be proactive. And if you're a sophomore in college and want to network with a recruiter, by all means, shoot your shot, try it. But just know that they might need a little refresher because they're very busy. They might need a little refresher when it comes time for your graduation date. Ping them again. Say, hey, we talked 2 years ago. Do you have anything entry level or associate level for me to work on, for me to interview for? I think they would love the outreach.
Okay, and then I had one more question. I was going to ask, as a recruiter and as you work with other recruiters, what is something that stands out really well on LinkedIn pages, resumes? What is something that across the board you guys like to see?
Yeah, love to see activity of any kind on LinkedIn. Love to see, thought-provoking questions or articles being posted. Love to see an optimized page in terms of there's a space where you can put a headline. Is that just student at Ohio University or Kent State? No, you can really format that into what you want to do. So in your profile, that's something that really catches our attention.
All right, thank
Hopefully
you.
that answers your question.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, you froze up just for a minute, Amy, but so there's a section on LinkedIn, you said, for somebody's right under their name. Don't just say student at Ohio State or whatever. Say a little bit more, like a vision statement or something.
Yeah, think of it as a mission statement. Think of it as your business card, your headline on your business card. If you had a title, what would it be? So for me, I've toyed around with it myself. I'm an executive recruiter, but sometimes I'll put in my headline, test it out, see if I'm getting more people interested in what I'm recruiting for. If I say I'm a headhunter in the healthcare technology space, connecting people with jobs, maybe that'll catch their eye more. So it's a lot of testing and tweaking, but that headline space is a great opportunity to do that, to do just that, to test it.
Good. Okay. How can I'm going to add another question going off the cuff here before we get into interviews. I just want to ask another question about resumes, and it might be related to AI, I guess, but I'm curious. Is it advisable? So let's say I'm in the job search. I've got a field, like this broad field maybe, and I've got like 5 or 6 positions that I see are open and I want to apply to each one. Do you advise customizing a resume for each job? Because that can get really confusing and you got to keep track. All right, what did I highlight on this one for that job versus just stick with your resume, have your resume be one thing, have that be the one you use for all the jobs, or should you customize? And the reason about the customization is is AI sort of picking up keywords that match that job description? So for that job, I should really focus more on ABC. And for this one, I better highlight XYZ because AI is only just picking up the keywords. Does that make sense? And do you have
It
advice?
does. Yeah. Yeah. So keyword tracking or scanning, it has been something that's been in applicant tracking systems for some time. And now with AI, it's even stronger than ever. So yeah, I was going to emphasize the importance of in your resume, get those keywords in. And now in the case of, let's say you are applying, like you mentioned, applying to 5 jobs, it sounded like you said at the same company. If it's 5 jobs at the same company, probably just stick with 1 or 2 versions of your resume.
Right.
Unless I'm imagining those jobs wouldn't be wildly different from one another. I can't really see a time when someone would apply to be a business analyst and a creative director at the same time. So, if they're wildly different, sure, customize it per. And then you look at 5 different companies, they're going to have their own keywords in their job descriptions that might differ from one another. So just being aware of that. You might be able to reuse a resume once in a while, but just really try to customize it if you can.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That helped. Lauren, go ahead. I see a question. There's a question. Go ahead, Lauren.
Rachel has in the chat, she's wondering, are there recruiters for all professional fields?
That's a great question. Yeah, there are. So for my firm, just as an example, we span across industries and we work across the country. So we're in all types of different technology fields. And then we also do things like food and beverage and packaging and all types of things. There are physician recruiters out there. There are nurse recruiters. So I think just about any industry or expertise, point that you can find, you're going to find a dedicated set of recruiters. I would start Googling, if you want to go into, I don't know, if you want to go into, let's say you want to go into food and beverage, start Googling food and beverage recruiters near me or something like that. You'll start to find these firms, and that's where you can find those opportunities to introduce yourself to those firms as somebody they should know about and that they can send out on job interviews.
Right. Okay, so let's segue a little bit to interviews. So your resume was great, the cover letter, your LinkedIn profile brought you in for an interview. Can you talk a little bit about tips and strategies for acing the interview?
Yeah, acing the interview. That's the next hard part in the process, right? Now, I would say I have general prep tips I tell everybody. And I tell people who are going for chief commercial officer roles, the same thing I tell people who are going for manager level roles. Be sure that you have researched the company. I know that might sound like an obvious. People don't do it sometimes. And they walk into the interview and I hear from the hiring manager, seems like this candidate didn't do any research on us. And it feels, the reason why it's important is because, you're using somebody's professional time. You want to make good use of it on their end and your end, make it fruitful for everybody. So make a good use of their time, get prepared for the meeting. If you have a business meeting when you're on the job, you're not going to walk in not knowing the agenda. So you should prepare for, just as you would any business meeting. So I think it's really important to do your research on the company, on the role, be able to speak to your responsibilities from jobs you've had previously. And if you haven't had a professional job, if you haven't had a full-time 40-hour week job, that's okay. Just start speaking to student organizations you were leading projects in, or part-time jobs you've had. Be able to give concrete examples of the work you did. That's really very important. Be able to speak to your experience as it relates to the opening. So not just I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. I'm really good at X, Y, and Z, and I see you guys do that really well. That's why I think I'd be a fit here. So that's kind of a blanket overview of like what could go really well in an interview, but also what could go wrong if you don't prepare.
Great. Yeah, really good advice. Okay, so how can new graduates, for everyone here again, they're going to graduate from the college. I'm not sure everybody here if they're seniors or juniors or second years, but eventually you'll graduate. So how can they set themselves up? What could they be doing now, especially if they do have 2 or 3 more years left, or even a year? Set themselves up to be marketable. And to be able to sort of move into roles that might lead to progression, all of that. Like, what could they be doing now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And these are things I wish someone had told me when I was putting myself out there. But I think just be really open and proactive as much as you can be. I know I've said proactive like 3 times already tonight, but being proactive, is probably one reason why a lot of you are excelling in school right now. So I think, taking that same energy and putting it towards a job search, even while you're full-time in school, it can be challenging, but it can be done. Do things in small doses. Think about, hey, I'm going to work on my resume template this week, and next week I'm going to do a template for a cover letter, and then the next week I'm going to request an informational interview or a networking session with someone I met on LinkedIn. These are the types of proactive things that you can do that I think go a long way when somebody's thinking about you down the road. They're going to remember, hey, Lauren reached out to me when she was just starting her career. She followed up with me, we've kept in touch. She would be really great for this new role. So I think those are a few things you can do to set yourself up for success. I'm a big fan of networking in general. I think that's something that I lacked when I was in college. I didn't think much of it. But when you enter these groups on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever else you're looking, you can start to think about what's the face-to-face component here too. How can I network with some individuals, look at live events to go to and start marketing yourself that way? It can be a little bit, it can be a little scary the first time, but everyone's there for the same reason. And that's what you need to remind yourself of. We're all just trying to, make new connections to help ourselves in our careers and help others. So I would say, be personable as much as you can through the internet, and then get your personality across when you go to some of those in-person networking sessions. Showcase ways you've grown as a student when you talk to these people, and I guarantee they'll remember you if you were proactive in the beginning of your search.
That's great. Yeah. Also, I wish I had that when I was in college. I didn't get that advice. Okay. I want to open it up again to questions, and feel free to, like I said, unmute and or just type in chat. But so that's sort of the last question I had, at least scripted. But what was there anything missing anything that we didn't ask about that you think is important to share? What else is there that folks should know?
Yeah, I think it's really important to ask questions in interviews. That was something I neglected to mention earlier when you asked about the interviews. Hugely important to ask questions. And the questions do need to be pointed or kind of smart. You can't ask, what does your company do? Maybe don't go down that road. I wouldn't recommend that, but be personal and ask them questions that show your interest. Ask them questions that'll give you more insight as to this company a fit for me. You're interviewing them really as much as they're interviewing you to a certain point. And you can be respectful in the process of asking a lot of questions. But I'd also recommend, as you start to look at jobs, look up the company, not just their website or recent news, but look at their social profiles. That's often what's most top of mind at the company. If they're posting on their LinkedIn company page, some hot event they're going to, maybe that's an industry event that you should be aware of if you're interested in that industry. So these are the types of things to keep tracking. And then let's say that your interviewer's name before you go ahead into an interview. Look them up on LinkedIn, see what they're talking about. It's a good way to establish rapport if you find you have something in common, or that you've been talking about the same topics on LinkedIn. I think that's, never be afraid to go look at someone's LinkedIn profile. They're going to see you looked at it or anything like that. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And I think an interviewer would be, happy to see that you've done some research. So those are a few things I neglected to mention. But I would say also, AI is great in the job search. I just got feedback yesterday that I had a candidate use ChatGPT for a thank you note and copied and pasted, and you could see it came from ChatGPT. Oh. So be aware.
Oh,
this is someone who's been in the working world for over 20 years, and he made this mistake. It's okay to use those tools as research. Totally okay to start ideas for yourself of what you want to write in your thank you note. But I think hiring managers are picking up on this technology and picking up on what it can do for an applicant and a candidate. And you just need to be wise about how you're using it. And, you know, don't do a copy paste sort of template. Don't use your own voice. It's going to go a long way.
How important are thank you notes? If you don't send it, so a company interviewed 10 people and 6 of them wrote thank you notes and 4 didn't, you know, how heavily is it weighted? What's your advice?
How heavily is it weighted is something that's going to depend, I think, on the role.
Okay.
You know, if I'm interviewing to be a copywriter, I probably should send a thank you note because I'm going to be writing, right? If I'm interviewing to be an engineer, maybe a little less likely. But I personally always recommend, and again, this goes through entry level through C-suite candidates, I recommend that everybody send a thank you note. It can be short and sweet. It doesn't have to be lengthy. If the interviewer offered, hey, I know we ran out of time, but do you have any more questions for me? You can send them in an email, take them up on that offer. You know, don't pepper them with a whole laundry list of questions. Maybe throw a question or two into your thank you note, keep the conversation going with them. So I think it's hugely important. You know, I was told in college to send handwritten thank you notes, but don't do that. So I would say send an email. You don't have to do any of that. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be lengthy. It doesn't have to be really long-winded, but you can just get a short thank you for their time.
Yeah. My day was a handwritten note too. So
you know, and it changes so quickly. It was handwritten notes and then it was email that, you know, so now it's email is fine.
Right. And just to piggyback on the question asking, I would concur. As a hirer, I've sat on many search committees, and when a candidate says, we end it with, do you have any questions? When they say, no, I'm good, it's not good. It's not good to not have some questions. So always have a few in your back pocket to ask.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what else, Lauren? Does anybody have any questions they want to ask Amy while we're here? And then Lauren, anything you want to throw in there or ask as well? Anything we didn't?
There's nothing in the chat, but the floor is open, everyone.
This is your chance.
Yeah.
We've had a few good questions, so with an expert in the field.
And I know some of you might be interviewing for internships also. And I would say, if I didn't make it clear, I think these rules apply, or these recommendations apply to internships as well. And something I also wish that someone had emphasized to me in college, how important an internship can be, whether you're doing it for college credit or just for fun or just to get to learn a new area. That's how I landed in marketing. I was already in another career and I wanted to get into marketing, so I took an internship. So you can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Okay. I don't
No questions.
any more questions.
I had one more question.
Yes, please.
So I'm going in the industrial organizational psychology route I'm considering, which has a lot of like worker satisfaction and worker retention and training, and even getting in on the side of recruiting employees to an extent. What is your educational background? And for someone like me, what would you recommend getting into, talent acquisition, recruiting, just in that field? Like, what could I do to kind of promote myself and get involved in recruiting?
Yeah, if you're looking to make recruiting a career for you, I would say a good way to start is get your feet wet in kind of the way that frankly I did in a firm, where you can try out different industries. Maybe you'll be in one industry practice. I'm in healthcare technology, but if I have interest in food and beverage, maybe I can move over there. So kind of get your feet wet, get to feel some other industries out by doing that agency setting, that firm setting like I'm in. Or you can, with your educational background, I would say that would probably make a lot of sense to go into talent acquisition at an organization, being a recruiter internally for, what did I use? Google was the example before. So I would say those are good ways to get in. I think with your degree, it's probably going to be a really good transition into talent development at an organization, but you probably go either route. And also my educational background was not in anything related to HR or really even org com or anything like that. It was all media studies. I I'm an example of somebody who, through some challenges with the recession and everything like that, had to find a new path. And so my educational background has overall come in handy. Obviously, like I mentioned, those comms classes were very handy, but I didn't take the traditional path. So you might be someone who does, and that can be really exciting.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Is it best to find and apply for jobs or internships through LinkedIn or directly to a company or both? Like, how do you actually apply for a job you might see? What's the best way or effective?
I like looking at LinkedIn for jobs because you can see approximately how many applicants there are. You can typically see who the job poster was. You can do a little more research that way. But what I do when I see something on LinkedIn, if I'm, been going through my own job search in my past years, I cross-reference that with the company website that I'm looking at. So again, with Google, if Google is hiring a product marketing manager and I'm going for that, I see it on their LinkedIn, I want to verify that that this is posted by Google, this is, their job. So I go and double check. Some people like to apply, do that quick, easy, fast apply on LinkedIn. I don't see anything wrong with that, as long as you're attaching your resume. So that's one thing you can do. I hope that kind of gives you a little more insight of how you can apply. I really think either route, the company website or the LinkedIn, is a good idea. There's really not many benefits of doing it on one or the other, but just some of those reasons I mentioned.
Is the same true for like Indeed, things like places like Indeed and what the other one?
Indeed is a little different. Indeed is a little different because sometimes what you're finding out there, some things fall through like their spam filters, so to speak. So you might see more nonsense on there. That's just, I think once you find something that's good on Indeed, you can apply directly through it, but do the same thing as you would on LinkedIn. Make sure that application is full and complete, and that you've got your customized resume, not just the resume you had posted on Indeed in your profile. Make sure you're actually entering in something that's customized to that job, because that's going to go through those applicant tracking system filters as well. So you want to get past those with the keywords.
Right. Okay. So switching over to internship. So how does one, if they're not really connected to an internship program at their university, how do you even find an internship? What are some tips for finding internships?
Yeah, get real crafty and start thinking about your personal network too. And I had internships at my uncle's friend's daughter's company and things like that when I was going through my internship. So I really leveraged all my personal and professional connections to find an internship. And when I say leverage those connections, that means pick up the phone, have conversations with people, start talking to them about where you're interested, because more likely than not, they're going to want to help you. People like helping people. If they're a personal connection of yours and somebody's vouched for you, they're going to probably want to help you, or at the very least say, I don't have anything today to share with you, but I will keep in mind you're looking for this. So leverage the personal connections, find opportunities that aren't even posted by doing that. Someone can create an internship around your skills that may be a startup or a smaller company. It might not happen at Mullen or Google or Honeywell or whatever, but at smaller companies, that can happen quite often. So something else to think about is, where can you create opportunities for yourself? That's a creative way to get an internship.
Yep.
Does that help answer kind of how you can
Lena,
do that?
good. I don't know if Lena's still here, but yeah, I thought that was good. Yes, she says yes. They say yes.
Okay.
Good. That's great questions. Let's wrap it up then. How do we, can anyone connect with you? Are you on LinkedIn?
Of course.
Connect on LinkedIn?
No. Would that be funny if I said no? I'm not on LinkedIn. I'm
right.
on LinkedIn. You can find me. You can find me on the Direct Recruiters page, or you can just search my name. I am happy to make connections with you guys and stay in touch with whoever, if you want to have a networking phone call with me, I'm happy to get to know you individually. We'll squeeze it in. To be fully transparent before you guys connect with me, I do want you to know I don't work on internships, and I don't recruit for more entry-level roles. But like I said before, I love to get to know people so I can keep you in mind for the future when the time is right and we find something really good to work on together. So please don't hesitate to reach out and we can have a conversation.